Oh my God, guys, with a show that was absolutely stacked with not one, not two, but three title changes on the biggest TNA show of the year, Bound for Glory. It was announced that next year TNA Genesis is back after nearly 3 years, which next year will be 4 years since the show aired. Which the last time they had TNA, the last time they had Genesis was back in 2021. Which at that particular time, because I was doing some research before I put this up to see the last time they did it, and I remembered that it was in 2021 because much of that one was that tournament they had for the cup that Ace Austin ultimately won the tournament. That was pretty much the bulk of that Genesis that took place. And the main event was Moose and Willie Mack in an I Quit match. But it's been even longer since they've actually done it as a pay per view. So this was huge news, because when I seen the day, it made me wonder. So they not doing Hard to Kill next year. I mean, the fact that Genesis is going to be on a Sunday, January 19th, that's huge. TNA continues to thrive and rebuild themselves with this new direction they've been going. And just an amazing night. I mean, we saw uh, Mike Bailey lose the X Division title yet again to Vikingo. That match I was not able to actually see live, but I know it was a great match. I know these guys threw it down. I was able to see the rest of the matches live because we also had the uh, the knockouts title, which I thought this match, was just as good, if not even better, than their match that they had 2 years ago, where Jordan Grace broke the streak of Masha's helmets. Now the roles were reversed, and they were wearing. And what's interesting is how they mentioned in commentary that the attire they were wearing was literally the reverse of what they wore 2 years ago. Where this time Jordan's got on the red and Masha's got on the white. And even after Masha sold her knee for much of the match, she ended up defeating Jordan, which I figured was going to happen this time because Jordan has had a really dominant reign as champion. She's been champion since Hard to Kill this year when she beat Trinity Ford before she went back to WWE. And she's had just an amazing reign ever since. Um, Even announced that her reign, as Tom mentioned in commentary, it almost tied Ty Valkyrie for most successful title defenses during when Ty Valkyrie was with the company. They had a stunning match, and Masha Slamovich managed to win the Knockouts Championship, beating Jordan Grace for it. Just a phenomenal match. So you had that happen. You had Mike Bailey drop the X Division title. You had the Hardy Boys win the TNA tag team belts yet again, which I'm not really surprised that happened, considering the way the Go Home show went on Impact this past week. And I knew the system were not going to retain. And ABC had, they had their moment when they beat the system at Slammiversary. So I figured neither of them were winning. But the Hardy Boys win the titles yet again. And of all things, like I said, Genesis is back. By next year, it'll be 4 years since they've done the show. Just absolutely amazing. And it's funny, I'm still learning about the earlier days of TNA. I've seen at that time, not that I didn't, not that at that time I just didn't really know about TNA like that. I mean, I knew about TNA, but I didn't get to like, look at it as much at that particular time when I was younger. But I tell you, that's one show I do know about. And just after doing some research, that's just an amazing moment. It's amazing that they, are bringing that show back. TNA are really making some big moves. I mean, the fact that they were rebranded back to TNA this year, after being so long calling themselves, Impact. When Anthem bought them and they, the name was changed to Impact instead of TNA. The fact they went back to the TNA name this year, it was just a huge jump. And so now they've taken a step further, and now they're bringing back some old shows. I mean, we still got some specials to end off this year. They still have Final Resolution in December. They still got Turning Point next month, which those are specials. At one point, those were also pay per views, but they're TNA specials to look forward to. But man, I mean, this is definitely something, just a really big, just a really good night. Rhino gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. He definitely deserved it. I wasn't familiar with who the other guy was that they announced, but I know he deserved it as well. Rhino, though, I mean, he's definitely one of those guys. 'Cause I think he came to TNA. What was it, around 2005? Um, he definitely made an impact, and then came back there later on after he went back to WWE and left there and came back to TNA, and he definitely deserved it. But just a really a huge night. Even some of the undercard matches, Santana and Moose, I thought was a decent match. Santana gets his vengeance on Moose, defeating a former two-time TNA World Champion, ultimately beating all the members of, the system. You Josh, after having the hands tied of Macklin, makes Macklin pass out after Macklin, pretty much gave it a hard fight, even with the hands tied up. Just a really good performance by him. Especially consider how long it took them to even have their match last year after Josh was hurt. They were supposed to have it in Rebellion. And Josh got his win. First time Josh was not in a title match at Bound for Glory, in quite some time. I was thinking the last three Bound for Glories that he had been in from 2020 up till last year, he was in title matches. Because 2020 they were they were actually the tag champions at the time. I think that's when they won the belts back, if I'm not mistaken. But they were the tag champs at the time, um, and in 2021, that's when he won the TNA, the Impact World title at the time. He won that from Christian Cage in the main event. He main evented, three Bound for Glories in a row, and this is the first time. It's 2021 with Christian Cage, 2022 with Eddie Edwards, and then last year with Alex Shelley. And this is the first time that he did not main event. He was actually like the third match on the card, which was definitely a huge shift. Um, but a lot of titles did not change. It. Spitfire retained their belts from Rosemary and Wendy Chu. It looks like their alliance they had is pretty much over. Rosemary attacking her afterwards. But, they did not lose the belts. They managed to retain this. So a lot of, even PCO, who had a really good match with Mike Cardona, I mean, they took it to the extreme with the barbed wires and the thumbtacks and the doors and stuff. They really got crazy with the Monsters Ball match between them. And PCO managed to retain the Digital Media's belt and the other title that he won from AJ Francis. So a lot of crazy stuff going on tonight. Trying to make sure I don't miss everything because I've just mentioned everything briefly. But TNA, bringing back Genesis, that's definitely a big deal. I gotta say. They're doing some really good things, and I'm just loving every bit of it. And so, just a phenomenal night tonight. Uh, you know, Um, the call your shot, Frankie wins that. He referees to Joe Henry and Nick Nemeth match, teases that he's gonna, call a shot, but then John Layfield comes out. This is like the third time he's gotten involved in the Nick Nemeth match. I do wonder if this is, perhaps setting up Nick Nemeth to turn heel or some type of alliance between them because yet again he helped them, but this time he not only attacked Frankie, but he also attacked Joe Henry. Joe Henry gets screwed out of the world title again. The crowd was more pro Joe Henry in this match, so the fact that Nick retained here, you got to wonder where this is going. And I kind of figured Joe wasn't winning the title when I realized that it was not the actual main event. They called it a triple main event, and this was the second main event, but it was not the actual final match of the show. And that's kind of how I figured Joe Henry was not winning the match. So Joe Henry, for as much as the crowd was, chanting his name, yet again, he failed to win the TNA World Title, which was kind of crazy. So yet again, he gets screwed, but this time by John Layfield. So you got to wonder where this is going with that because during the build up to this, Joe Henry did say to Nick Nemeth he was concerned about, John Layfield because John Layfield didn't just lay him out, but he also laid out Ryan Nemeth, who tried to confront him, about what he did. So I really would like to know where this is going with him and Nick Nemeth because there has been no explanation, to what this is between them. For Joe Henry to get screwed like this with all the momentum, it's crazy. Um, but you know, it definitely more titles stayed the same this year as opposed to other years. It just seems like most of the titles did not change hands, but you had three that did. Um, and the Hardys, like I said, they end the night off in the Mayhem match, the tag match, and win the tag team titles. Say what you want about Jeff Hardy. Um, you know, he's definitely had a lot going on the past year or so, past few years. But I mean, they won the belts here. Hopefully, Jeff can keep himself together. I'll just leave it at that with him. Um, but I mean, it's a big deal. It really is. In a sense, I'll just put it that way. But yeah, man, TNA Genesis is back, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So that's pretty much you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, tell you guys, man. Peace.